So I'm super excited to be bringing this video today. We're going to be talking about sea glass. Yay! So sea glass is one of my favorite things, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we can learn from sea glass, as well as what its color or its roughness can tell us about the sea glass and the life it's lived. We'll also talk a little bit about what makes a place a good place to look for sea glass. Here we have some of the sea glass pieces that I have collected. Got a lot of the green here, especially in that white box, and some of the browns and whites. We've got driftwood and shells. So I do have some teeny tiny pieces of the more rare blue colors here, but they're so small, I haven't quite decided yet what I'm going to do with them. But what I love about sea glass, it comes in all sorts of different colors, shapes, sizes, as well as some that are rough and smooth, and some that still have some jagged edges and clues that suggest what it could have been. So this is probably the top of a bottle. So the ocean is one of the world's best upcyclers. So it takes essentially a piece of garbage and turns it into something that we collect, we hunt for on the beach, and that we make things out of. And, you know, jewelry, sea glass jewelry is beautiful. Some people pay a lot of money for it, and it started off as something just discarded in the ocean. When you do find a piece of sea glass, you might find something like this. It's not, you can tell it's sea glass, it's a little bit frosted, and the edges, when you touch them, they don't cut you. This is a lower grade of sea glass. It's called a craft grade, and it's essentially a piece of sea glass that just hasn't been in the ocean as long. It hasn't had time to sort of be tumbled and smoothed out. So this is getting a little bit closer to the jewelry grade of sea glass. It's nice and round, nice and smooth. There's just a little groove there, but it can make a really interesting piece of jewelry or whatever you want to make with it. And then so this is another craft grade. You can sort of see the S is still in there, probably was a beverage bottle. And so this could have had a little bit more time in the ocean to smooth out, but we collect it because craft grade tells its own story, and you can still do different things with it. And as I mentioned too, this one piece here with the letter still etched in, we can guess a little bit by its color and by any clues it gives us, like lettering, what it used to be. And a lot of the time, sea glass, what it used to be, can be determined through what color it was. And that's why some colors are more common and some are more rare. The greens and whites and browns that you saw in my collection are all fairly common colors, simply because there's common colors of glass for different household products or different products, glass products that we make. Other colors like reds can be much harder to find because there just aren't as many glass products around. Because sea glass comes from broken pieces of glass, generally speaking, places that are good places to look for sea glasses would be areas where there would be a high production of glass or the high possibility of there being broken glass in and near the water. Historically, this can be landmarks or bodies of water that were along trade routes, and you could have, you know, the old alcohol bottles that, you know, got thrown overboard and put in the ocean, and now they're washing up on our water as pieces of treasures. It could also be areas where there was a glass factory. Pictou is one area that's good for that. And places like Dingwall. So we've been talking about Dingwall, Nova Scotia, and the lighthouse there. That's the first cast iron lighthouse in Canada, as well as the first Canadian lighthouse to receive heritage designation. So when you walk into the museum in Dingwall on the lighthouse, you see on the wall a display of sea glass. If you want to try and determine whether or not Dingwall would be a good place to look for sea glass, we can sort of think that, there was a lighthouse settlement with humans living on an island, about 18 miles off the shore. And we also know there was a high number of shipwrecks in the area. So shipwrecks usually meant that things would get stuck in the ocean, and over time they would start to wash up on the shore. And this could include all of the glass pieces that may or may not have been on the ships. A piece of sea glass could also be from one of the lighthouse keeping families, and just, a product they had that they either discarded or that through natural forces got thrown into the water. And that's one of the things that I love so much about sea glass. You can look for clues on how old it is based on, its smoothness and how long it's potentially been in the water, its frostiness, and you can guess at what it used to be based on its color. But there are just so many more stories that it could tell if it could. Where did it come from? Was it from a shipwreck, or was it from a lighthouse keeper? Or, what did it see while it was in the ocean? What swam past it? Where did it go? Was it always just floating in that area, or has it come from far away? So that's, again, it's that story of the sea glass and this whole unknown element to it that, we can only know so much about it. And the rest is sort of its story coming into contact with our own. And what we do with it is just another continuation of this story of this awesome upcycling that our ocean does. But another thing to look for when you're hunting for sea glass is rocky shores. The rock helps to tumble and smoothen out the glass, and generally speaking, the rocky shores do make better hunting grounds for sea glass. So you also want to try and go the day after a storm, and to go at high tide. So the day after a storm, the oceans are rolling a little bit more has got washed up onto the shore, but there's also just been more of the tumbling and smoothing out process that's happened in rougher waters. And then high tide just gives you more shoreline to look at. And that also wraps up our feature on Dingwall and Cape Breton and on our historic Canadian lighthouse. So we have been talking throughout this about our favorite unusual or historic lighthouse that we've seen. In our next video, we'll be revealing my personal choice for some of the more unique lighthouses that I've seen as I've traveled. And we'll also be talking about one more historic lighthouse in Cape Breton. There is another area of Cape Breton that's got a first for Canada. So if anybody knows, put it in the comments below here on YouTube, or check us out on our Facebook or our Instagram and follow us and let us know what you think it is. And we'll be revealing our favorite unique lighthouse that we have personally seen, as well as another lighthouse first for Cape Breton. So make sure you subscribe to us, and we'll be seeing you around. Thanks.